Hey guys, I'm back in the studio today, and what I thought I would talk about in today's video is inspired by a conversation I was having with a colleague of mine this week. We were discussing getting to that point, in a business, especially if you're like a small business with only a few employees, or especially if you're a one-person operation, where you can get to a point where you're like, all right, I'd like to step up and make some more money and be more aggressive than I've been, but very quickly in doing that, you realize the real practical hard limits of what you can take on, and that you start to feel like the only way to go above this ceiling is to scale. What I wanted to talk through in today is, in case it's valuable or relatable to anybody else in business, a headspace that early on in my career I actually thought was really helpful in getting me going and finding some work. But over the years, I've been doing this about 16 or 17 years now. I'm at a point in my career where I'm like, an amount of money that I would have thought was pretty good money 10, 15 years ago. Now that I have a family, I have a child, I'm just at a point where I'm always asking myself, like, what is something else I could offer? What is a way I could be more aggressive to take on, some more work to kind of up that income? So in the very beginning of my career in SEO and in marketing, I had just come out of a white collar job where I worked in the marketing department and was trained on SEO and, developing some copywriting skills, etc. And when I found myself looking for work, I decided to start my own thing, but was like, admittedly, I don't have a whole lot of experience in this. Why should somebody want to work with me instead of someone, say, that's been doing this for 10 years, other than I'm cheaper? What is a better reason than that? And as I thought about it, I was like, well, a lot of SEO people are very technical minded, and that's great. That's a valuable part of SEO. But as they will freely admit, I don't do copy. I don't like writing. I usually just hire writers to handle that aspect of the SEO for me. And so I thought, well, I grew up writing and loving writing. I even went to college for writing to develop those skills more. I've been studying copywriting in the last job that I've in. Maybe that's what I could lean into, is the fact that I am a professional that blends those technical skills with the creative approach in terms of the presentation of the copy that we're putting out there, even as we go after certain keywords and trying to think more creatively about how I interpret the data. And that was helpful early in the career. When I networked and stuff, that was how I positioned myself, and it did get me work. It got people's interest. So it was good for a lot of years. And then you just fall into a rhythm of, that's a story you've told yourself for so many years that that's all you ever think of yourself as. And it's worked, in certain goals. So like, why not? But like I said, then you get to a point like I have in my career where I'm like, all right, instead of, working at a certain level, what if I get really aggressive and like make hay when the sun shines and say yes to a lot of things and take on a lot? And you really find that you're doing a lot of late nights and weekends to keep up with that. And you're thinking, how could I scale and step back from this a little bit so that I'm not carrying so much? And then I realized the trap that I had fallen into, because over the years, many people had suggested to me, well, why don't you white label or just hire some people, outsource, subcontract out some of the work? And two things kind of held me back from that. One, at one point back in 2014, I was a marketing director in an agency, and I had a few direct report people that I managed. And while aspects of that were rewarding and I enjoyed it and I learned a lot, there are also parts of, as anyone who's managed people can probably attest to, there's parts of that are a headache. And years later, at this point in my career, I'm just at a point where that's not what I'm looking for. I don't really want to directly manage people. I just want to do my thing, do the craft, run the business. What does that leave a person like me? Pretty much white labeling then at that point, because then you're not managing people. You're sort of hiring another business that is good at doing the thing to do the thing. You're not directly supervising them. And as long as they're doing a good job and they deliver you the stuff you need, boom. But I've been reluctant about that too, because of that story I told myself in the beginning. I was like, all right, well, if the whole reason that someone is hiring me is for my writing skills, then that's what they're paying for. When they sign the contract, they think that they're buying my skills. If I subcontract to somebody, in one scenario, what if they're not as skilled at writing as I am? And what if that shows? And then what if the deliverable to the client, they're a little disappointed and they're like, oh, I thought what I was paying for is a little higher level than that. What if that's an issue? And I did run into that a few times when I had tried subcontracting with different writers. And I get it. people who just hire out, you pay by the article. I understand that to make a living, they have to just churn out articles all day, which means they can't spend a ton of time thinking about certain parts of it and carefully considering flow. And I understand that, but I was in a position where I'm like, but that's not what I'm selling. What I've promised people is that the content will be very well considered, that there's a lot of good rationale for the linkage of each part of it. And each time I subcontracted, when I would review the work, I would spend so much time editing it and finessing it into what I needed it to be that it was like, this isn't really saving me much time. I might as well just write this myself. And I was also afraid, if the client knew that I was subcontracting this out, would they be upset on general principle again? Because they were like, I had the understanding I was paying for your personal touch, and now I realize you're just shopping this out around town. And so I just got in this headspace of like, it has to be me. Like, that's what my whole business pitch kind of is. And in a chat with the colleague the other day, it kind of came up for both of us that you sort of have to take off the artist hat and put on the business person hat. And when you do that a bit more, you say, with any brand, really, sure, you could say my brand is synonymous with a certain degree of quality. Think of any like good quality brand of any industry, whether it's tools, clothes, cars, whatever. If it's a brand that when you think of that, you're like, yeah, if I need a power drill, I know I can buy, their brand and that it's going to be a good drill. I don't even have to think about it. Even if you're a brand like that and that's how you're establishing yourself, what really matters is the end result. It reminded me of a piece of advice I had gotten years ago from a business friend, and I guess I wasn't ready to really let it penetrate, at that point. Especially in SEO. That was the context of our chat. He said, people are paying for results. They're hiring you as an SEO guy to accomplish certain ranking and traffic goals to make leads on their website happen. If they give you money and you make that happen, they probably 9 times out of 10 don't really care how you got there. What matters to them is that you got them results, that they're making money, that this for them is a good investment. The end. And so thinking of SEO that way is a lot easier to say. I could think the copy is important, and on certain pages designed for sales, it certainly is. But do you have to personally touch to that degree everything in this business? Or if you white labeled certain parts of what you were doing, as long as the end result met your quality standards that are consistent with what you're selling and what people expect from you, then does it matter? Probably not. And if it allows you to help more people and take on a lot more projects, where you're still pointing the sword, you're still the quarterback of the whole campaign and what's happening. But if you can work with more businesses and just, profit share some of that out, what if that's a real way forward? And it just made sense that I've been hemming and hawing about stuff like that for years, but I just find myself now at a point in business where you're like, yeah, that's the only way forward. That's with your revenue goals, this is what must be done. And so just be selective about what things are you comfortable white labeling and what things would really help you to not have to deal with, and then what things really do legitimately need to be you, or what things do you enjoy doing in your business that you just don't really want to outsource because it's something that brings you joy about what you do for a living, and hang on to that stuff. And how does that all mesh together? So that's what I'm sort of thinking through and developing right now. If any of you guys are in business, like I said, maybe you've thought the same kinds of thoughts that I had earlier on. If you enjoyed hanging out with me for a few and listening to my stories, I'd appreciate you hitting the like button. It helps get my video content out there to more folks like yourself. And if you like this kind of content, let me know in the comments, and I'll think of more things like this I can talk about for people following. If you have suggestions, I'm open to those too. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.